Hello, I'm Kent Myers. I'm Mick Cornett, and it's time for the verdict.
As a part of its traditional and continuing commitment to public and community service, Crowe and Dunleavy Law Firm presents The Verdict, an objective discussion of contemporary legal issues hosted by Kent Myers. And also brought to you by a friend of Oklahoma Lawyers for Children and Delta Dental Plan of Oklahoma. And welcome to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett, and this week's show is entitled Football and Television. Let me introduce one of Oklahoma's top legal experts and my co-host, Kent Myers. Kent, football and television, how does that partake to our usually law subjects?
Well, they are legally related in this context. We're starting football season in just about 60 days, and we're going to see some new Friday night heroes we haven't seen before. Typically, the Friday night heroes we think about are the high school players, but this year, we're going to have some colleges and universities playing college football on Friday nights. It's basically a pretty new development and one that OU has a real kinship with.
Yeah, I want you to expand on that because almost 20 years ago now, the University of Oklahoma and Georgia went together and filed a lawsuit against the NCAA, and that really started this proliferation of television.
Yes, this is a legal show, and I do antitrust work, but we're not going to talk about the intricacies of it. Suffice it to say, the United States Supreme Court told the NCAA to keep their hands off the colleges and universities televising their own college football games, that was their business, not the NCAA's business, and that resulted in a proliferation of television today as opposed to what we had back then. Mick, back in 1982 and 1983, in a given season there would be approximately 28 to 30 games televised, not counting the bowl games. In any given Saturday now, there are that many being televised if you can figure out a way to watch them all. So we are televising literally hundreds more games now than we did then. I want to show you a graphic of what the trial judge, Judge Juan Burciaga, said when he rendered this decision. He said, the court considers the result achieved by the plaintiffs, and that was OU and Georgia, as an historic one, that by their prevailing in the lawsuit, plaintiffs have conferred a benefit upon a significant industry and a large segment of the public. Now, the significant industry that the court was talking about was the colleges and universities' ability to televise their own football games. The public, of course, are the fans. And this decision was historic. And we are still seeing today, in 2001, the ramifications of it.
Well, we have two really good guests, I think, today. Al Eschbach of WWLS, the sports animal, and University of Oklahoma Athletic Director Joe Castiglinone will be joining us for a very interesting topic, football and television. Where are we and where are we going? Should be a lively discussion right here on The Verdict.
It's got to be around here somewhere.
Don't worry, we'll find it. Just calm down.
I swear it was right here on the desk.
All right, if I were a Will, where would I be?
It's the only copy. Without it, we're out $3 million.
I know.
Hey, accidents happen. If a condom breaks
Or you have unprotected sex.
You have 72 hours to reduce
your risk of getting pregnant. It's called emergency contraception.
Got questions?
Call Planned Parenthood.
All children deserve a life of hope and love. But sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all of the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. Oklahoma Lawyers for Children has over 350 of the best attorneys and volunteers in Oklahoma County who donate their time and services to represent children. For more information, call 405-23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're ready to discuss the issue of football and television. Kent, why don't you introduce our guests?
We've got great guests this week that know more about football than most anybody and certainly have had a substantial exposure to television. Our first guest to my left is the University of Oklahoma Athletic Director, Joe Castiglinone. Joe has been the AD here at Oklahoma since 1998. He's a University of Maryland graduate. Had some stops at Rice, Georgetown, Missouri, and has been with us at OU for a number of years now. He's had many accomplishments, not the least of which was the hiring of Bob Stoops. Joe, glad to have you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
On my right is someone that is very familiar to all of us in Oklahoma because Al Eschbach has been an Oklahoman since the 60s. He is a journalism graduate at the University of Oklahoma. He was the sports editor of the Oklahoma Journal. He's the dean of the sports talk show People here in Oklahoma and around the Southwest, actually. And he knows more about college football and where all the dirt is buried than anybody around. Al, really glad to have you.
Not many people know, but I wanted to be a lawyer at one time. But when I graduated OU with a 2.00 exactly, there weren't a lot of law schools knocking down the door to get me in.
Well, we're glad to have you now. You've done well.
I love it, The Verdict.
Let's start now with talking about Friday night college football. The way this got started, at least officially, and let's look at a graphic that is a summary of what was left of the NCAA football television plan, and it prohibited Friday night games of intercollegiate football games, Friday night telecasts of intercollegiate football games. And in April of this year, that was stricken by the NCAA governing body, and then the games started being scheduled. Well, Joe, if we hinge the inability of the NCAA to stop Friday night games in competition with high schools on the OU-Georgia case, can we fairly say OU's responsible for this?
No. I really don't want to be associated in any way, shape, or form with a philosophy that supports colleges moving from traditionally their Saturday time frame to playing on Friday nights. Certainly the University of Oklahoma, the Big 12 Conference, and many schools like us are opposing this move. But Kent, this is truly a legal issue, and I think it's been a position that the NCAA has been forced to take, not necessarily to support the idea of playing on Friday night, but to back away from prohibiting the colleges in the membership from accepting opportunities to play on Friday night if they can advantage themselves financially. I don't think we're going to see wholesale changes across the board in colleges, college football, moving back and forth from Friday night to Saturday. Most people will stay playing on Saturday night. But there's also another situation that people need to consider, and that high schools play outside of Friday night as well. Friday afternoons, Thursday nights, Saturday afternoons, and Saturday nights. I think it's a bigger situation in my mind in places like Oklahoma, which depend heavily on high school football, particularly in the rural areas. But we see some of the conferences now looking at opportunities and accepting some of those. I don't think Oklahoma should be held responsible for that. If anything, what we did is to try to get people to think differently about opportunities and move away from such a regulated environment.
Al, what do you think about Friday night college football?
As a football fan, I like it. And I love the college game. I think it's great. So am I going to watch it? Yeah, I will watch it. If there was football on a Wednesday night, college football, I'd like it. I think what it does really, it gives people a choice. Okay, you can go to a high school game, or if you want to watch a college game, watch it. So what it really is doing I don't think it will hurt the high school game as much as some people think.
Yeah, let's look at with another graphic. Let's see what's been scheduled so far. We have just 6 games scheduled so far, but there are 2 Big Ten teams, some Mountain West, Big West, and Conference USA teams, as well as the Western Athletic Conference playing when TCU plays. Joe, we think in our economy that competition is good, and I know that you feel that the University of Oklahoma is in competition with Oklahoma State and with teams outside the Big 12 as well. What do you think about competition between high schools and colleges in athletics?
I don't think we should be pitted against each other. We depend heavily on the success of high school football, just as the NFL depends heavily on the success of college football. Unfortunately, times have changed as such where people find the need to seek alternative sources of revenue. And when it relates to opportunities to play on television, which create large sums of money to support universities and athletics, they have to look that direction. As Al mentioned, I don't think we'll see a lot of this occur, and I don't know that there'll be wholesale changes from Saturday to Friday, but we will see it. There are also changes this year, and no one's talked about the fact that there'll be college football on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. One might begin to question whether or not there's going to be overexposure for college football. Very few conferences are going to obviously move that direction, so those leagues that do play on those non-traditional nights will go unopposed, so they get the exposure.
Al, let me ask you, when this OU and Georgia versus NCAA case came down, there was a criticism that there would be overexposure, that by freeing the colleges up from the NCAA plan, that there'd be too much college football on television, and yet college football seems to be pretty healthy. Do you think there is now overexposure?
My problem with the whole thing, and I don't know if Joe will agree with me, the thing that I really dislike is what happened with the thing is like 11 o'clock a.m. football games. I think TV dictating the time of the games, I think it's pretty tough for a fan from Tulsa or whatever to drive down for an 11 o'clock football game. The problem I got, as a fan, I love watching it, but I also see from other people, I don't like the way they dictate the time of the games.
I guess it's a matter of money on the TV contract.
Let's hold that thought and come back. We got to have a break. We'll be right back. You're watching The Verdict with Mick Cornett, Kent Myers, and our special guests, Al Eschbach and Joe Castiglinone.
Yeah, campfire's a lot of fun. You get to make some friends. You get to do some cool stuff. Campfire's for boys too, not just girls. But hey, campfire's definitely for kids. So call the campfire office nearest you to join in on the fun. 'Cause let's face it, you're not getting any younger.
St. Gregory's University has been changing the lives of people like me for 125 years. Affordable private Catholic education, balanced with dedication to community and service, makes St. Gregory special. We're extremely proud of our students' outstanding academic achievements and our nationally ranked athletic teams. It's when you help a student build a future of balance, integrity, and service that you change a life forever. St. Gregory's, a community for life.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Every day Americans make this pledge, but few think about its significance. It's our job to make justice a reality by providing legal representation for all citizens. Legal services, keeping the promise of America.
Every day, in state governments throughout the country, crucial decisions are being made that affect the lives of children and their families. But as this process takes place, children are often left voiceless. When these children raise their hands to be heard, is anyone listening? There are people listening. They are child advocates. Join us and raise your hand for kids.
We're discussing football and television. Welcome back to The Verdict. Nick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent, where are we here?
Well, Al asked a good question or raised a good point before we broke, and I'd like for Joe to have a chance to respond to it. Al's point was we're setting 11 o'clock games that don't seem to be best for the fans because it's good for television. How do you balance those things?
Well, this is all fallout from the deregulation, and it is tough for us to balance. And in a way, we are acquiescent to the television request, and it does put some hardship onto our fans. We recognize that and try to avoid that as much as possible. You don't see us doing that more than once, maybe at the most twice during an entire football season, or at least not more than once at home. But we have to consider those creative scheduling opportunities to get us on television. We don't necessarily sell out for the sole purpose of television, but it does figure into the agreement that we make as a conference with a television partner. And if we do well in creating these other sources of revenue, then we don't necessarily have to place all of the pressure to fund our programs on the backs of our ticket holders. Therefore, we can keep the cost of attendance down as low as possible. Fortunately, a program like Oklahoma in football coming off a national championship, the price of our tickets compares favorably in the conference. We're no more than middle of the pack in terms of comparison to the other league teams.
Can I ask you something, Joe? I mean, I know the merchants hate the 11 o'clock kickoff, too. I mean, they just hate it. Can you say, okay, we're only going to do it X amount of times? Can you tell, are you in charge at least saying, we're not going to do it that many times?
Yes, we are, Al. In fact, there's been many, many occasions which we've said publicly that we've declined the invitation to accept
Nebraska
to get the game on television.
Well, no, you Texas in that situation?
Yes, and we've had others that we have turned down just because we didn't want to disadvantage our fans anymore. The night football game is also a disadvantage to some that want to travel in and then have to travel back. But that helps the merchants, you know, so everybody has to share in this. Some pain, some gain, but in the end, it's good for the program, and we don't do things without considering everybody involved, and if anything, we do it in moderation.
Some have suggested that the power of television has actually resulted in destruction of conferences. For instance, the one most often mentioned is the Southwest Conference. Do you have any thought about that?
I don't know that it would be totally to blame, but it certainly was a major factor. So it has to also be considered what we thought about in the old Big Eight. The 8-member institutions with a very strong television agreement and certainly a great history of success. You look back over the 10 or 15 years prior to the formulation of the Big 12, most of the time the Big 8 team was in the national championship picture or won the national championship in football. We didn't need to do anything different from a competitive standpoint. We saw the world changing as it related to television and our ability with a small population, a few television sets, to drive the numbers in value that we needed to support our programs. And that's what led to exploration of additional teams. We focused on Texas and Texas A&M and Baylor and, of course, Texas Tech as teams to bring into the conference because the Southwest Conference was shaky at best. I think you have to go back even further. When Arkansas decided to leave the Southwest Conference and join the SEC, they had reasons, not the least of which might have been television or increased revenue. And look what they gave up. Look at the foothold they gave up that they had in recruiting in a very important state like Texas. So all kinds of factors have to be considered. Television is not the sole factor to blame.
Al, let me ask you, you got your finger on the pulse of this thing as well as anybody. What do you think the health of college football is today in the nation? Not just here in Oklahoma. We know it's healthy here.
I think it's great. I mean, you look at the money that the networks are paying. You look at, I hope there's someday there's going to be a national championship playoff. I think it's stupid that we don't have one, but that's another subject. But I think it's really healthy. I think that something, I think, Joe, earlier we were talking off the air about the fact that kids aren't playing football like they used to. I think the video games and all the cable TVs.
Soccer, maybe?
Soccer, maybe, a communist sport, but I'm not going to talk about that either. I think it's hurt, but I think college football, I think the fans, the fervor is still there. I mean, it just, you know, doing talk show, they talk college football year-round.
Yeah. Well, Mick, I'd like to see us go to something that we haven't done before. And you and I have talked about it. Do you want to, as between these two guys?
So we thought this would be appropriate if, because, especially for Joe, because Al is always getting to ask Joe questions from time to time. I wanted to give each of you 30 or 45 seconds to ask the other one a question that you've always wanted to ask, but for whatever reason, the time or the occasion was never quite right. So, Al, why don't you go first and ask Joe a question that you've never had an opportunity to ask.
And we hope we'll get an answer from you.
Well, yeah, that's a big thing. Hope we get an answer. Okay, Joe, I know Bob Stoops was your first choice hiring. Who are other people you thought about hiring? You just couldn't have thought about one person. Who are the other people you thought about, other names you thought about hiring?
Well, I think that this is a great idea, y'all. Now, you did say he could ask whatever question he's always wanted to ask me, but you never did say I had to answer
No.
I have always declined to discuss those other possibilities. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Because we had... he's like, what do they call those guys?
Ventriloquist.
Yes. Something else, too. But I don't talk about them because when we got down to discussion, I said there would only be one winner and there won't be any runners-up.
Well, you obviously picked the winner.
That's exactly right. I feel that way, and we talked to a lot of great coaches out there, and there's no need to put anybody in second place just for discussion's sake.
Okay, it's your turn.
Yeah. Turn the tables on Al.
I don't know if this is a question that I've always wanted to ask Al, but where do you buy your Panama Jack hats?
Dillard's got a good selection of the hats. I always remember watching Bert Sugar, the boxing analyst. Yeah. He always had a hat. So I said, that's pretty cool. I had a hat because one of my friends in college, he had a gimmick. He always had a tennis racket on campus, and he just was cool walking to class with a tennis racket. So, Dillard's. So I usually get my hats at Dillard's.
Well, we appreciate you both of you being on here. We've already scheduled another taping, so we'll have you on again maybe in a couple of weeks on a different topic and talk about the financing of college football. But again, thanks for coming by.
Our pleasure.
All right. Kit and I'll be back with a final word right after this.
Hello, my name is Ted Smith. I'm president of the board of directors of the Oklahoma Disability Law Center. ODLC provides free legal services in civil matters to people with physical and mental disabilities.
I'm Mike Sykes, vice president of ODLC. For more information, call 1-800-880-7755.
The Oklahoma Disability Law Center provides high-quality legal services to people with physical and mental disabilities.
In Oklahoma, there are more than 1,600 children waiting to be adopted. They're of all ages, and for many, home has been a source of pain and conflict. They've dreamed of finding a better life and a loving family. Consider adoption. For more information, call 1-877-OK-SWIFT or visit the website www.okdhs.org. Adopt. It may be the toughest job you'll ever love.
Bringing out the best in each student. That is the simple goal and tradition of Heritage Hall. The focus on the individual shapes the educational experience at Heritage Hall. Each student benefits from small classes, able, dedicated teachers, a solid academic curriculum, and exceptional co-curricular programs of athletics, arts, community service, and other activities, parental involvement, personalized counseling, and the development of responsibility, integrity, and love of learning. If you want education taught with pride, then you want Heritage Hall.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Well, Kent, high schools aren't going to like this ability that the colleges have to televise their games on Friday nights. No matter how you capsule it, if there's more football on television on Friday nights, chances are there's going to be fewer people going to high school games on Friday.
Well, that remains to be seen, because that's what the dissent in the OU NCAA case said. They said if you do this unlimited television, we're going to have a harm inflicted on the live gate attendance, and it just has not come about. We have said that about basketball, and basketball has had unlimited television forever, and the live gate attendance at basketball games keeps going up and up and up. I think people are going to go see what they want to see, and if they're interested in the product, they're going to go buy that product, whether there are other things to divert them or not. I think it will be interesting to see what the ratings turn out to be. If the ratings on these Friday night games are like the XFL ratings, they won't last long. If, on the other hand, they go wild, this could be the saving grace for some of these middle conferences that can't get good television packages. So time will tell.
I was going to say, I'm glad we had these two guys on this week and scheduled another show for them. But we got a great show next week as well.
We do. We got starting our next season, we got an hour-long show, aired July 1st, with Governor Keating, Senator Stipe, Senator Hobson, and Mayor Kirk Humphreys all on the stage together in front of a live audience, and we're going to be talking about interesting topics like, should Terry Nichols be tried again? Should we have a lottery? Should we have a right to work? It will be a dynamite show.
People will want to see it. And of course, as I think we've mentioned before, but we have another 13 weeks already scheduled. So yes, if people like what they see, they'll have more opportunities to see some great topics.
We're looking forward to it.
All right. Kent, as always, thanks. Thanks again also to our guests, Joe Castiglinone and Al Eschbach. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next time on The Verdict. This program was brought to you by Crow and Dunlevy, a professional corporation. And also brought to you by a friend of Oklahoma Lawyers for Children and Delta Dental Plan of Oklahoma.